Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Please hit subscribe if you are new. As always, many thanks for tuning in to my channel. Very exciting times in the world of boxing. We are getting closer to the mega fight of Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker. Now this fight has some detractors. There are some people who are hating on this fight. I am not one of them. I've been talking about this fight on YouTube since 2014, speculating as to who would come out on top. I've changed my opinions a few times as we've seen the respective careers of the two guys develop, and I'm buzzing for this fight. We've seen in the lead up both guys looking like they're in tremendous condition. Both of them appear to be coming in lighter than they have done for previous fights. I saw Joseph Parker arriving at the airport in the UK and he looked very lean. You could see just by looking at his face that he has got rid of a huge amount of weight in the lead up to this fight. And for me, the two guys coming in light really could mean that this is a fight of the year contender. At their best, these guys are athletic, fast, explosive heavyweights, and I haven't actually liked how they both put on too many pounds in their recent years of their careers, but the fact they're coming in light for this really does mean it could be an exciting fight, and you know, it's getting me all the more buzzing for it. In this particular video, we are going to look at keys to victory and tactics from a Joseph Parker perspective. So already up on the channel is a review of The Gloves Are Off, when Parker and Joshua met to be interviewed by Johnny Nelson. That went up probably Thursday this week, I think. We are going to do a video probably the next 2 or 3 days with the keys to victory and tactics from an Anthony Joshua perspective. But this one is purely to focus on a Parker perspective. So if you're watching this thinking this is a bit one-sided, BG's only talking about how one guy can win the fight, then you're absolutely right. It's intentionally a one-sided video because the other side will be coming in the next few days on the channel. So what I'll be trying to get across in this video is, if I was in Parker's corner, if I was training Parker, if I was coming up with the tactics and strategies for this fight, what would I be looking for him to implement? Now, usual disclaimer, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a cornerman. The people in Parker's corner are clearly far more educated and a far better position to give him advice than little old BG, but that won't stop me from throwing my hat into the ring and giving a few thoughts on what I would do if I was Joseph Parker. So the first thing that I would talk about in this fight is, I don't think there is a realistic chance Joseph Parker wins this fight on points. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying Parker can't win the fight on points. But in terms of coming up with a strategy, I don't think it's realistic that he wins the fight on points. You know, is there a 5% chance of it happening? Maybe. But is there a big enough chance you'd want to base your game plan around it? No. I think there are 2 reasons for that. Reason number 1 is the style of the two guys. You know, it's going to be very hard for Parker to convincingly outbox Joshua for my money over 12 rounds. And reason number 2, which is probably the bigger reason, is Joshua's the home fighter. He's going to be fighting in front of 70,000-80,000 mad Anthony Joshua fans. He's the home promoter's fighter, and there's so much money behind Anthony Joshua. Realistically, it's hard to see him losing a decision. Look, if Parker goes out and wins 10 rounds, Parker probably does take the fight by decision, don't get me wrong. But with the roaring crowd going mental every time Joshua throws a punch, with the hype surrounding AJ, if I was in Parker's corner, I'd be telling Joseph Parker he needs to look for the knockout here. He cannot look to leave this fight in the hands of the judges. So that is my first key to victory for Joseph Parker. It's a simple one. It sounds stupid given that we're talking about 2 heavyweight champions of the world, but I would be going for the knockout. Number 2. We have heard Parker and his team make constant reference to Joshua's biggest weakness, which is his chin, according to Parker. I disagree. I disagree strongly. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Anthony Joshua has a world-class chin. I'm not going to tell you he's got a George Foreman chin, or a David Tua chin, or an Evander Holyfield chin. You know, I'm not going to say his chin is of that ilk. But what I will tell you is, it is not as simple as Parker catching Joshua once and the fight being over. You know, Parker has gone the distance several times in his career against Razvan Kajanu, against Hughie Fury, against Andy Ruiz, against Carlos Takam. I'm not saying Parker doesn't have power, he does, but they should not be going into this fight looking for a one-punch knockout. Joshua's biggest weakness is not his chin. He has a very substantial Achilles heel for me, which is his stamina. And I think they should abandon and maybe they're not even banking on his biggest weakness being his chin. Maybe that's just something they're saying to get a rise out of him in public. But I think they should go into this fight focusing on how they can expose the weakness in his stamina. I think that's absolutely key. We've seen Joshua have very difficult moments in both the Dillian Whyte and the Vladimir Klitschko fights due to stamina and the gas tank emptying. And Joseph Parker has got to back himself to be able to close the show against Joshua if he ends up in a similar state to how he was against Vladimir or against Dillian Whyte. So I really want to see Parker test Joshua's stamina. So my point number one is go for the knockout. My point number two is go for the stamina. Test his stamina. What I'm clearly building up a picture here is I want Parker to be going for a second half of the fight stoppage. I want to see Parker not getting dragged into a war in round one where he's trying to take Joshua out with big one-punch hits and, getting into a massive trade-off. I want to see Parker very, very smart, very cautious in the early rounds. This comes on to a key to victory for Joseph Parker. Number three, range. The range in this fight is so crucial, and it really could be Parker's undoing. Joshua is a beast if you stand off him and allow him to dominate the fight from three-quarter range. Joshua, he's not like an outside boxer like a Vladimir or a Tyson Fury. He's certainly not like an inside boxer like a Mike Tyson. What he is that kind of three-quarter length boxer where he throws straight punches, but he likes to kind of almost go inside the pocket when he's doing it. He's just standing somewhere between, not outside the pocket, not inside the pocket, like mid-range if you like. And when he gets you there, he is a wrecking ball. What Joseph Parker needs to do at all points throughout this fight is avoid being in that area. You can get on the back foot. Parker's coming in light. He's a good mover when he wants to be. He's an athlete. Get on the back foot. Use lateral movement. Circle the ring. Make Joshua chase. Make Joshua always hunt from the first second of the first minute of the first round. That's going to start emptying that gas tank that has been questioned so extensively in the past. Either get on the back foot, then explode into range. Picture, if you will, a peak David Haye. The David Haye who fought Nikolai Valuev. The David Haye who fought Vladimir Klitschko unsuccessfully. Picture that circling, elusiveness, back foot, staying out of the bigger man's range, and then exploding, ambushing into the pocket. For me, I want to see Parker outside of Joshua's distance, or so close to Joshua that Joshua isn't able to get those long, trademark, three-quarter length straight punches off that for me are when he's at his most deadly. When Parker's exploding into range, I want to see him using the body. I want to see him testing that Joshua body. Joshua's body has not been tested a lot in his career to date. It's an unknown, and with his stamina problems, or perceived stamina problems, I think that banking work to the body could pay great dividends for Parker in the later half of the fight. So, for me, those are all absolute keys for Joseph Parker. He's got to be fast, he's got to be furious, he's got to be athletic, he's got to be light on his feet. I want to see a cautious Joseph Parker, a Parker who isn't willing to trade straight away, a Parker who's circling the ring, making Joshua chase. I don't want to see Parker standing at the end of Joshua's jab and cross. I think if he starts doing that, the fight's over. I want to see Parker rushing from outside to inside, getting crisp, clean combinations off. Parker's at his best when you see those fast hands flying into combinations, changing levels, going head, body, body, head. Really, really testing out Joshua in that sense and dragging the fight to that second half. Parker may be the naturally higher stamina man. Parker's the guy who's got substantial championship experience now of going 12 rounds in high-class fights. that experience is going to be key to the success here. You know, if he can get Joshua to around 10, 11, 12, I'm convinced he can pose real questions of Joshua. Let's talk about what I don't want Parker to be doing. Parker, when he wants to use it, has got a good jab. But I don't really think he should get into a jabbing contest with Joshua. Fundamentally, I have thought throughout the course of Parker's career, he has consistently failed to use his jab to its best ability. He is sometimes quite lazy with it. He sometimes reaches with it. You know what I mean by reaches with it? Instead of just springing it back and forth, he kind of almost turns into it and kind of throws it out there. And I'm worried about him doing that with a bigger man. Especially if he's throwing it out lazily, you know, just that sort of reaching jab where he kind of leans in behind it to try and get extra length on it. Because Joshua, he is the bigger man. He's got good timing. He's got underrated counterpunching ability. And I think if Parker starts throwing out a sloppy, lazy jab like that, he's going to be getting countered and he's going to be getting caught. So that jab for Joseph Parker, either commit to the jab, stick it out there, double it up, use it as a battering ram, keep it fast and quick and bring it back to your chin straight off, or don't use it. But what you must not do is that sort of lazy, pointless reaching jab that I've seen him do from time to time on his career. Certain ways I almost think he'd be best off to fight this fight not committing to that jab, because I think when Parker's trying to get into the range to get the jab going, he's kind of dicing with danger at that point, because that's when he's going to be in the Joshua 3/4 length range that I discussed earlier on in the video. I more want to see him using his feet, using explosiveness, ambushing, rushing in, you know, putting in a shot to the body, fast hands, and then getting out of there. I want to see mobile, explosive. I want to see him get in, get on, get out, you know, not hanging around, get his work off and then move away, you know, start to sap Joshua, land that shot to the body, get out of there, make him start to chase you again. Look, it goes without saying, defensively, Parker's going to have to be very, very tight in this fight. Parker's head movement has been questionable throughout the course of his career to date. Yeah, we've seen Parker eat a lot of punches from guys who don't hit anywhere near as hard as Joshua, or who aren't anywhere near as technically astute as Joshua. He can't continue to make the mistakes defensively that he's made in his career to date. I know it sounds basic. I know people will laugh at me for saying this, but one thing Parker doesn't always do is keep his hands up by his chin. Parker and his team speak about Parker having an iron chin, an unbreakable jaw. That may or may not prove to be the case, but let me tell you this, at no point has Parker fought what would be considered a world-class puncher in the professional ranks, and whilst he may have shown an above average chin against those sort of guys, the true test of his chin is going to come the first time Joshua lands that big right hand on his beard. And if I was advising Joseph Parker, I'd be telling him, get that head moving. I'd be telling him, keep that chin down, keep your hands up, head movement, bit of upper body movement, try and make yourself as difficult and as awkward a target as possible. There's been too many times in Parker's career where when he's been trading, when he's been letting off punches, his head has been straight up with his chin pointing up in the air. And I think if he does that, doesn't matter how good a chin he's got, it's going to be too late for him. So, where are we? 14 minutes in. In summary, mobility is key. Make the bigger man chase, make the bigger man hunt, make the bigger man move. Don't let the bigger man set his feet. With that mobility, be constantly and consistently aware of the range. Never be at the end of Joshua's punches. Always make Joshua reach. If you can't do that, go forward. He's not going to be able to generate the same power unless he can make those punches go long. He's not going to be able to be as devastating if the punch is up close and personal. So, you know, go close. Either out of range or very inside. Nothing in between. Combinations, head, body, body, head. Test that body, then get out of there. But the key for me is to get to the second half of the fight. From a Joseph Parker perspective, if Parker gets to round 7 and he is 6-0 down on the scorecards, that is not something that at this point I would be concerned about from his perspective. Parker's goal for me is to get to a point where he can stop AJ late. I don't think he's going to take AJ out with one punch. I think he could be the naturally higher stamina, fitter man in the later rounds. And I think Joshua's stamina will potentially start to sap, especially if he's been made to move, to hunt and to chase a more mobile and speedier opponent in Joseph Parker. That's what I'd be looking for Parker to do. If Joshua gives him the opportunity that Joshua gave Dillian Whyte, or that Joshua gave Vladimir Klitschko, Parker's got to be devastating with the finish. Joshua looked like he was there for the taking against Dillian Whyte. Joshua looked like he was there for the taking against Vladimir Klitschko. They're both good fighters. Neither of them were able to find that punch to take AJ out. Parker's got to fight a whole fight waiting for that moment to occur. And if it does occur, if that chance becomes available, he's got to finish Joshua in clinical fashion. He's got to make sure he doesn't let Joshua get to the end of the round and get his second wind, because we've seen Joshua as a guy who can get his second wind and finish strong on multiple times in his career. Those are my thoughts from a Joseph Parker perspective. Parker has advantages in this fight. He has opportunities in this fight, but I think AJ has more advantages. And I think for Parker to be victorious, he's got to be very smart. He's got to be very, very clever as to the range, and very, very clever as to the moments that he chooses to fight and chooses to engage. Doing it too early, doing it from the wrong range, is going to be meaning he's going to bump into the very, very best of Anthony Joshua. I don't think Parker can win the fight on points. I think Parker is sensible, even if he has to let those first couple of rounds drift away, and hope that the AJ gas tank empties, because they talk about his chin. I'm not saying the chin is a great chin, but for me, just my opinion sitting here on my sofa, is the stamina that is the weakness that Parker could really hope to exploit in this fight. Let me hear from you. Please leave me your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe. Please take the time to press the thumbs up button. I'd appreciate it. Thanks as always for tuning in.